All right, ready to dive in. Today we're looking at advanced directives in India.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, think of it like,
Like
if you can't speak for yourself medically, this is how you make sure your wishes are followed.
Right.
And there's this new Supreme Court order kind of shaking things up.
Yeah, it's actually based on a 2018 judgment, the Common Cause versus Union of India.
Hmm. So this is a legal document then? Like, is this like writing your will, but for like health care?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
It's where if you're an adult and, of sound mind,
Right.
you can lay out exactly what you want to happen with your medical treatment
Okay.
if you can't communicate it yourself.
Makes sense, but I bet some people listening are like, well, I'm young and healthy. Why do I even need this?
Oh, for sure. You hear that all the time.
Yeah.
It's not just for, older folks.
Right.
Accidents, sudden illness, that can happen to anybody.
Oh, true.
And this way, no matter what, you're prepared.
So you're in control.
Exactly. You've got that control.
Now, the original guidelines had this thing where a judicial magistrate had to, like, countersign the directive.
Uh-huh.
That seems like a lot, right?
Huge hurdle, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially during a medical crisis. Can you imagine?
Oh, no.
So the Indian Society of Critical Care Medicine, they actually went to court over it.
Uh-huh.
And that's where this new order comes in.
Okay, so less red tape, always good.
Absolutely.
Would they change? Exactly. Did you get rid of the magistrate entirely?
Pretty much.
Really?
Now you can go to a notary or a gazetted officer much easier.
Oh, that's way more accessible.
For sure.
But then, if there's no magistrate, how do they make sure things are done right?
Good question.
Yeah.
So they set up this two-tiered medical board.
Yeah.
You got the primary medical board, which has your treating physician,
Right.
and then two specialists.
So it's not just one person deciding?
Oh, no, a whole team.
I like that.
They review everything, the directive, your condition, the whole picture.
Makes sense.
Then it goes to a secondary medical board.
Oh, wow.
Another set of specialists, totally fresh eyes.
It's like a second opinion.
Exactly. They make sure everything's in line with what you wanted.
But what if the document isn't clear or, like, there's a situation that wasn't covered?
Yeah, they thought of that.
Okay.
There's a clause saying they won't just blindly follow the directive if something unexpected comes up.
Oh, that's good.
Like, let's say the directive says no to a treatment because it was incurable back then.
Right.
But now there's a cure.
They wouldn't just, like, ignore that?
Exactly. Your best interests come first, even as things change.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's about making sure you're getting the best care possible. Always.
And they need consent from, like, your family, too, right?
Absolutely. Your guardian or whoever you named in the directive. Got to make sure everyone's on the same page.
So this new order is making things way more user-friendly.
Definitely.
But all this talk of medical boards and legal stuff, it kind of makes my head spin.
I hear you. It sounds complicated. But really, it's just a safety net, a framework so that even in tough situations,
Right.
Your voice is heard.
Your choices are respected.
Exactly.
So we're back, still digging into these advanced directives in India.
Yeah, fascinating stuff.
It's easy to get caught up in all the legal stuff, but I keep thinking about, like, the human side of this.
Absolutely. It's about real people making tough choices about their own lives.
Yeah, and when we talk about honoring those choices, what happens if someone doesn't have an advanced directive?
Oh, good question.
Does the whole system just, like, fall apart?
No, it still works.
Okay.
It just means the focus shifts a bit.
There.
The family, the medical professionals, they have to work together to figure out what's best for the patient.
Okay, so even without a written directive, those medical boards are still involved?
That's right. The process is pretty similar. The primary medical board, they talk to the family doctor, the next of kin.
Right.
Then the secondary board reviews everything.
So they're really pushing for this collaborative approach, huh?
Absolutely.
Whether there's a directive or not.
Exactly.
And here's something I find interesting.
Yeah.
This order seems to be pushing for, like, integrating advanced directives with those digital health records.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Right. So instead of having a physical document that could get lost, doctors could access your wishes anytime, anywhere.
Exactly. Think about emergency situations.
That's way more practical.
Absolutely. It's using tech to make sure your voice is heard.
But I do wonder, are there downsides to streamlining things like this?
That's a good point.
Could it, like, lead to situations where someone's wishes are misinterpreted or their directives overridden too easily?
That's a valid concern, for sure.
Yeah.
That's why those medical boards are so important.
Right.
It's a balance, right? You want things to move quickly.
But you don't want to be hasty.
Exactly. The patient's best interests always come first.
Honestly, before this whole deep dive,
Yeah.
I'd never really thought about advanced directives.
It's not something that comes up every day.
Now I'm thinking about, like, what conversations I need to have with my family, what my values are when it comes to end-of-life care, you know?
That's huge. And that's what this order is all about, really.
Yeah.
It's not just legal stuff. It's about starting a conversation.
About what matters most.
Exactly. And how we want to be cared for even when things are uncertain.
Now, for someone listening who's maybe feeling overwhelmed by all this, what advice would you give them if they're thinking about, like, actually creating an advance directive?
Don't be afraid to start those conversations. That's number one.
Okay.
Talk to your family, your doctor. Be honest about what you want, what you're worried about.
So this legal document is almost like a prompt for a bigger, more personal conversation.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And think carefully about who you choose as your guardian, you know?
Right. Someone you really trust.
Someone who will fight for you if you can't fight for yourself.
And it's not set in stone, right? You can update it if things change.
Absolutely. Stay in control even when life throws you curveballs.
So even if creating a formal directive feels like a lot right now, just talking to your loved ones is a good first step.
Absolutely. A huge step.
Okay, so we've talked about the individual side of things.
Yeah.
But what about the big picture? How do you see this order affecting healthcare in India as a whole?
Oh, that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
I think this has the potential to be a game changer.
In what way?
It puts the patient's autonomy first,
Right.
which could lead to more personalized care, more compassion overall.
So it's not just about end-of-life care. It's about changing the whole doctor-patient relationship.
That's exactly it.
And as advanced directives become more common,
Yeah.
we might see changes in how doctors are trained, even...
We're thinking like medical schools teaching this stuff.
Yeah, how to have these tough conversations.
Absolutely. How to navigate those end-of-life decisions.
It's almost like we're watching a cultural shift happening.
It's a big change, for sure.
But like with any big change, there are going to be challenges.
Of course.
What are some things that worry you about this new system?
Well, one thing is access, you know.
Right, making sure everyone can use it.
Exactly, regardless of their background, their education.
So it's not just a right in theory, it's a right that everyone can actually use.
That's the goal.
And that brings up another question kind of related.
Okay.
How do you see this order affecting the whole right to die with dignity conversation in India? So we're back, and we've covered a lot about advanced directives in India.
Yeah, from the individual impact to the legal changes, even some potential issues.
But we left off on this big question. How does all this affect the right to die with dignity in India?
Well, it's complicated, right? This order doesn't directly address the right to die,
Okay.
but it does open the door for more open discussions about, end-of-life care.
So it's not a yes or no on the right to die.
Right.
But it's giving people the space to talk about it, make their wishes known.
Exactly, and to have more control at the end of life.
And as more people use advanced directives,
Yeah.
it could change how society views this whole thing.
That's what I'm thinking, like, maybe we'll see less focus on just prolonging life no matter what.
And more focus on, like, quality of life, respecting individual choices.
Exactly.
The big shift.
It is.
But then it makes me wonder, could this system be misused somehow?
Ooh, good point.
Like, what if families pressure someone into an advance directive that doesn't really reflect their wishes?
You're right. That's a big concern.
Yeah.
We need strong safeguards to make sure these directives are made freely without any coercion.
Like what kind of safeguards?
Maybe mandatory counseling sessions or having independent advocates for people who are vulnerable, things like that.
So it sounds like education's super important here.
Absolutely.
Not just for individuals, but for doctors and nurses too, right?
For sure. They need the training to handle these sensitive conversations.
Right.
And to spot any red flags, If someone's being pressured.
They're the ones making sure this is done ethically. Through all this, I've realized this goes way beyond just paperwork and medical stuff.
Yeah, it's bigger than that.
This is about changing cultural norms, challenging how we think about death.
I agree. It's about reshaping how India, as a society, deals with death and dying.
That's not going to be an easy conversation.
No, but it's an important one.
It is, and it's not just a conversation for India.
Right. This affects everyone.
Every country has to figure this out in their own way.
Exactly.
So to everyone listening, think about how these issues are handled where you live.
Yeah. What are the laws, the ethical concerns, the cultural norms? It's all connected.
It's fascinating, and hopefully this deep dive has given you some food for thought.
Some questions to ask, some conversations to start.
That's what we love about these deep dives, right?
Uh-huh.
It's not just learning stuff. It's about sparking that curiosity,
It's it.
challenging what we think we know, and ultimately giving ourselves the power to make informed choices about our lives, our healthcare.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been great.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep.